Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another round of coffee and questions. Grab your coffee. Let's talk about this Central Machinery 14-inch 4-speed woodworking bandsaw. And is it worth paying $375 for? I would tell you to think about it right off of the bat, and we'll go over, some of the do's, don'ts, and some of the issues that this machine has. But to jump into this, it's like saying, well, is it worth me buying, and is it going to do everything that it claims that it does? So we'll jump right into this. Now, I owned this for a while and I sold it, and I upgraded. I got a Davis & Wells and restored it, but I had this for a while, and there are some things I liked about it and there are some things that I didn't like about it. One thing is I put wheels on it and I was able to move it around the shop. It doesn't take up a huge amount of room. And it was handy for small projects. Outside of that, we'll jump into things right now, and I'll try to answer your questions. Now, the first thing that I redid on this were the electrical connections. I didn't feel the electrical connections were any quality to speak of. They were very poor. So I clipped them and I redid all of my electrical connections. So the first thing I noticed, like I said, was the poor quality in the electrical connections. About the thickness that I was happy with is less than 1/4 inch. When you get to 1/4 inch or greater, it just doesn't seem to have the power or really the cutting ability that I felt that I wanted. And that was one thing that was kind of a disappointment. Now, yes, somebody made the comment you can upgrade by, getting a larger motor for it. Well, that's a lot more money. I mean, to, put another motor in here. There's a riser block that you can buy that you can increase the height on it, but I didn't really want to do that. I mean, because it doesn't have the ability to cut anyway what I wanted it to cut. So if I added the riser block, then I definitely would have had to add a more powerful motor to it. The blade guides, they're very low quality, I can tell you that. So again, somebody made the comment, we'll just replace them. And okay, but then you're throwing more money at this thing again. And it still doesn't have the power, so you would have to increase the motor, replace the blade guides, and then you got the riser block, and you're sitting there putting more and more money into something that it just doesn't seem to have the power to cut the material that I wanted to cut, which was greater than 1/4 inch. There's a comment in here where somebody said if you need parts that are very difficult to get, it can go out as much as 3 months before you get replacement parts for this. I didn't run into that. Like I said, I didn't own it for that long a length of time, and I had sold it, took a little bit of a loss on it. I did buy it used. I did not buy it brand new. The guy that bought it, he owned it for a month or so, said he was getting rid of it because it didn't have the power that he wanted. I felt that, it would do what I wanted it to do, so I went ahead and bought it because I got it cheap enough. And then I turned around and I thought, well, he's right in a way, and eventually I got rid of it. It makes the comment, it has a 6-inch cutting height. There is no way that this thing will cut through anything 6 inches the way it comes to you. No, absolutely no way, not without making modifications anyway, of which I wasn't going to do, like I said. So, well, the one thing I noticed when you open up the machine is that top pulley is made out of like a cast aluminum. It's not the best quality really, but I mean, it worked. But I mean, in looking at it, I thought, well, just, like I said, it was just kind of a disappointment really. Well, okay, in tensioning the blade, yeah, I don't have a tensioning gauge. I use like the twang method by just, like a guitar twanging on the blade and getting a feel, for how much tension I wanted on it. But the problem with that is it's still hard to keep it running true, that blade. I tried to play around with the guides. I played around with a lot of things. I got it to run semi-true, but I couldn't get it as true as I wanted. But for rough cutting, small, wood projects, I mean, it worked okay. Anything beyond that, I knew that this wasn't going to be for me. The second thing I kind of noticed when I got this home, like I said, he had used it for a couple of months. There wasn't much wear on it. The blade that it comes with is not exactly a high quality blade. So, I got, I think it was a 3 TPI blade, and which is really meant for rough cutting, just to keep things simple for a minute. And so I got a replacement blade, and it did cut much better. Okay, so don't expect the blade that comes with it, to be something that you're going to really want. You're going to want to replace the blade is my point. There's Grizzly, lots of websites where you can get replacement blades for this. They're fairly standard. Part of the alignment problem, well, the housing on this thing is cast, so the blade doesn't really line up, in a vertical fashion, perfectly the way that you want. This is part of the reason why I was trying to get it to run true and was probably having a lot of problems. So again, it's not going to be super precise, but it worked okay, like I said, for roughing out, small projects. But I never could get it to run true vertically. I didn't have to do it, but a lot of people complain that during assembly, the holes don't line up correctly. So you're going to need to expect to use a drill and try to, re-hone out these holes to get things to align. They just said it was in, a poor design quality that, you put these together and then these bolt holes don't line up. Or you'll get one to line up and you'll have to drill out the others, to get them to fit. So I didn't run into that. Like I said, I bought mine used. It was pre-assembled. But that was a big complaint on the forum about this. Now that the top blade wheel alignment knob, or the bolt that's on there, you got to be careful with that when you're tightening it, because of the material it's made out of. It can strip on you easily. And I didn't run into the problem, but somebody made the comment they stripped theirs out. They had to retap it and put a larger bolt in there in order to get it to work again correctly. Now, I didn't run into that, but there's a few people that I read in the comments that ran into that, because I don't know if they over tightened it or what they did, and it strips out fairly easily. So just be careful when you're doing that. It's, yeah, the alignment knob. Well, that whole motor housing, it vibrates pretty good. When you plug this thing in and you turn it on, and the reason why is this entire base is made out of a very thin sheet metal. Somebody made the comment, you could put rubber matting down in there, to quiet it down. Yeah, you could do that, I suppose, but it's look, it's a workshop tool. I wasn't going to do that. I just let it rattle. I didn't care. But I suppose they felt it was an adequate enough stand, and they just went ahead and manufactured it that way. Overall, what do I think of the power? I think it's severely underpowered. If you really want the power, you're going to have to upgrade that motor. I wouldn't, I agree with the comments. Anything at 1/4 inch or better, you're going to have difficulty, or it's just not going to be able to cut through it very effectively, so you're going to take a lot of time and struggle with it. So, it is what it is. You're going to have to do something with the motor, really. But like I said, that is an added expense. I wasn't willing to do that. I just sold it, like I said, and I bought a larger, more powerful bandsaw. Well, because of the underpowering, what's going to happen is that blade can bind on you real easily, and it'll stop real easily. I had that happen several times, especially with the lower quality blade on there. All these things kind of go hand in hand with having a good bandsaw machine. You want the power, so you want to make sure that the motor size and the power is there. You want a good blade. You want good blade guides, and those components right there, really is what gives you a great bandsaw over one that is severely underpowered. And I believe this one to be severely underpowered unless you do the modifications and upgrade the components. Yeah, I found it, well, there's a comment in here, they found it very difficult, to balance. Yeah, I agree with you. No matter how much I adjusted it, I couldn't get it to balance correctly. And on these guides, you want to be very careful tightening the bolts. Snug them down well, don't over tighten them. You can break these bolts real easily on this. So just be careful. So what kind of wood? If you're using like soft wood, like let's say pine, and you have this right out of the box and assembled like in the picture, it'll cut through pine wood as long as it's not too thick. With the harder woods that I had, you're going to struggle with it a little bit to get it to cut through efficiently because of all of the things we mentioned. A couple of people said that in mounting the motor, the holes don't line up, so you have to re-drill and create your own holes. Then what that does is it creates, a lining problem, with the pulley system there. Now, I understand what you're saying. I didn't have that issue. Mine was pre-assembled when I bought it. It seemed to be working okay, that part of it, so I left it alone. Somebody made the comment, they just simply returned theirs. They said that there's a return policy of 3 months. They said They used it a few times, realized that didn't have the power or wasn't performing the way they wanted, so they went ahead and returned it without any trouble to Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight gladly went ahead and accepted it back. So they said, you've got this 3-month return policy. Yeah, when you turn it on, this whole machine is going to shake and vibrate pretty good on you. Mine did. I don't say all of them do. I mean, mine did. And then that's what made me kind of get into looking at the alignment of everything from, the motors, the pulleys, and the blades, and, trying to figure out, maybe it's just an alignment issue. And the more I can get this thing into a correct, alignment and running true, then a lot of this vibration will go away. So that's not really the case, but like I said, it's a machine, and I could live with it as long as it was going to perform and do what I wanted it to do. But like I said, as soon as I found out it's not going to be able to cut through thicker pieces of wood and harder wood, which is what I really wanted it for, even though I replaced the blade, and I did not replace the motor on it. I replaced the blade. But like I said, I just didn't want to spend all the money on the upgrades. What do I think of the rear wheel glides? I don't think much of them. Really, they used guide blocks where I think they should have used guide wheels. That would have made it somewhat better in quality, but you can buy them and do it yourself. But again, I didn't want to do that. So, but yeah, no, I don't think much of the guide blocks that are on the bottom of this at all. I think the upper tensioning wheel on this thing, the handle, it's real short. It'd be nice if it was longer. Somebody goes, well, you can make it longer. I understand, but I'm not going to go through that. Somebody made the comment in here, the dust port on this is, down close to the bottom. Yes, it is. And it should have been near the cutting guides. I understand, but they're mass-produced machines, and it's just the way that it is. And mine was on wheels, so I would take it out into the driveway, into the open air, use it, blow it off, and put it back. So I didn't hook up any dust vacuum system to this at all. So I can't really, comment on that, but I understand what you're talking about. Overall, it's very hard to assemble, and the instructions are poor. Yeah, I assume that you're right. With a lot of this stuff, but the thing is, it's easy if you look at pictures, to go ahead and put it together. The biggest issue was the alignment holes. They don't line up, and sometimes you have to begin to drill them out in order to get the bolts to fit. So that was everybody's biggest headache from what I read. You can yeah, I understand. There's another comment that came at me, many times. You can take these guide blades, the guide blocks, and you can upgrade them. But they're costly if you upgrade, to good guide blocks. So when you go from the lower quality to the higher quality, you're going to pay for that. And if I add in all the other modifications I would have needed to do to the machine, it just gets to where I don't want to put that kind of money into it. It was better to sell it. And I did. I sold it really fast. And the guy that bought it does a lot of small crafts, a lot of like scroll saw work and things like that. So for him, because I didn't want him to make the same mistake I did. I just made sure he understood that, look, you can get a riser block for this and increase the height on it. Okay, but it's still not going to cut that well. You're going to have to replace the blade, the blocks with guide wheels, and you're going to want a stronger motor. And it's still probably going to have the vibration issues and everything else, unless you want to weight this down and you want to put rubber matting in it and you want to do all these things that I read about. I just didn't want to spend the time and money on the machine. Now he did, and it worked fine for him. So, I gave him a good deal on it, got rid of it. And like I said, I went to the Davis & Wells bandsaw. I would tell you, for this price, hang on to your money, save up some more, watch Craigslist and some of these other places, get yourself a good machine that has good guide blocks. Good guide block. The blade is a no-brainer. You can buy those anywhere. You want good guide blocks. You want a good machine with good horsepower. And what do I recommend in horsepower? That's up to you and depends on what you're doing. There'll be lots of comments. You can drop them below on people that have bandsaws on the horsepower machines that they have. Now I have on my Davis & Wells at the moment, which is a much bigger bandsaw, much higher quality made. It's an old one that I restored. I think it's about a 2.5, horsepower motor on there. It could have went larger. It's just a motor that I ran across, and it's working fine for me right now, as long as I don't try to go too fast with something through it. It cuts true. It cuts perfectly fine. Well, by the time you invest all of the money buying the riser block, the blades, the guides, all this stuff, the motor and all this, you would have been better off getting a really good name brand used machine. I mean, that's my point here versus, the inexpensive, knockoffs, and you're going to put a lot of money into it. So my advice would be just that: save up your money and get a better quality machine. If you're going to be doing things like I do, I cut thicker pieces of wood. If you're going to do scroll saw, simple little stuff, this may be sufficient for you. Can we show the assembly? No, I bought mine assembled. I would tell you, watch YouTube videos. There's plenty of them out there on the assembly of this machine and what people ran into and how they drilled the holes out and so forth. So just watch some YouTube videos on the assembly of it. Guide brackets, like I said, they're junk. They'll fall apart on you easily. So you got to plan on replacing those in the near future if you bought this new. Riser block, well, Grizzly makes them. I had somebody on the forum drop a comment that if you go to the Grizzly website, if you want one that bad, the product number is H like in Henry 7316. And that riser block will fit this machine perfectly. Protection plan. Yeah, if you're going to go out and buy this for the first time, get the protection plan. Well, the other thing is somebody, dropped the comment. I mean, you can't expect, a high quality, high performing machine at this price. Well, you're right. I don't. And I took a chance, just like, anybody else does that buys a saw. It just realized that it wasn't going to work for me. There's no way that this thing's going to cut through a 6-inch piece of wood. It's going to stop, it's going to jerk, you're going to pull the blade, you're going to have lots of issues with it trying to cut anything thick or anything that's a hard wood. I'm going to use the measuring point of 1/4 inch or less. You'll probably be okay. At 1/4 inch or greater, you're going to have difficulty depending on the wood unless you're using super soft pine, and you're going to struggle even at that. There is no way that this thing can cut 6-inch thick wood. And, again, it just depends on the power that you're looking for in a machine. Yeah, but what about with the coupon discounts? Well, I don't care if it's 20 or 25% off. You're going to have all of the same issues that I just mentioned. This is not a top tool that I would consider buying if I walked into Harbor Freight and I wanted a bandsaw. After doing the research that I did and after actually owning one, I would not walk in and pay $375 for this machine. You're going to be disappointed. Save your money. Get yourself a high quality machine used off of Craigslist. Take somebody with you that knows what they're doing. Make sure, like I said, the blade won't matter, but make sure it's got good horsepower. You have good guide blocks. Hopefully they're rollers. And make sure it's an all around good machine. Turn it on and check it out for yourself. Otherwise, you're going to put more money into this machine than you wished you would have. And you wished you would have just held on to the money, added to it, and bought yourself a higher quality machine. Again, unless you're doing balsa wood or something. And then the comment is like, well, you can use shims and, to help, increase the alignment. You're right. I could have done that. I chose not to. Again, it's more money. The tires that are on these wheels, top and bottom, are poor quality. Eventually, you're going to have to replace them. Again, more money. The blade, more money. The motor, more money. The rubber matting, if you choose to use it, and the weight in it, more money. And to, line up, drill holes, and go through all this headache and assembly. When I took a look at this as an overall package, if I would have walked in for the first time and bought it, I would have been really unhappy about this, and I probably would have returned it, okay? But because I got it at a garage sale, it looked brand new. I didn't pay that much for it. I brought it home. I put it through the motions. I did a few projects with it, and I just ended up, when I had the opportunity, I sold it and upgraded it. So these are my thoughts on this machine, this bandsaw. So I would tell you, you can read through the forum like I did and talk to other people like I did. I assembled all of their comments and the things that I agreed with them about because like I said, I own this for a short time. This is what collectively, I don't care about what they say on the website about their reviews. They pay people to write reviews, and somebody can sit and go, oh, I'm going to give it 4 and 5 stars. That doesn't mean that those things are true. So I'm presenting you with when all of us got together and discussed this, those of us that owned it, these are the issues that we had. For small, like I said, little tiny hobby projects and things that are very soft wood and thin, you could probably be okay with this. Okay, I do larger projects. I do things out of hardwood, and I do things that are much thicker. I knew that I needed to upgrade. I'm not faulting anybody else. I made the decision, I bought it, I sold it, and I upgraded. I'm passing on the advice. You should save up your money, buy a higher quality machine off Craigslist. That's my only point. You can disagree with me if you own the machine. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think of the machine if you own it. These are my thoughts that I happen to agree with. I'm the home handyman. I hope you click subscribe. I hope you keep following me, and I'll keep doing tool reviews and bring you information on things that I actually own or within the group of people that I belong to. You know, we buy lots of things from Harbor Freight and lots of things off Amazon. And when I run across something I think is a good deal or it makes a good review, I always put it in a video and present it to you guys. So I hope you're having a great weekend. I'll see you on the next video. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop me a comment, let me know. Maybe some of the comments that you drop, Harbor Freight's, you know, quality people read through and watch these videos. Maybe that will entice them to make some upgrades to these machines. Thank you, folks. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.